I learned Romanian in 6 months. I'm going to tell you how. You could do it too. It's easy. And by the way I did it is not the way I would do it now because I've learned a lot about language learning, learning in general since then. A lot of the stuff I did was very effective, but there's also a lot that I would do differently, and I'll tell you about that later. If I had to do it all over again, instead of 6 weeks, 6 months, it'd take me 6 weeks probably, maybe less. So, context. This was 2020. COVID had just arrived, and I was in my apartment in East Berlin in Lichtenberg. I used to work in the embassy of Spain back in the day, and we just had started working from home. So I that was saving me 2 hours of commuting every day because I had to go all the way to Tiergarten in West Berlin and then back to East Berlin every day. Not convenient, but I couldn't find anything closer because Berlin is huge, but it's pretty hard to find housing there because, well, several reasons. I'm not gonna go on a rant about the Berlin government, but you get the idea. I was living in Berlin, um, and yeah, I had Eastern European, Russian, Ukrainian, Moldovan neighbors in East Berlin because there are a lot of Eastern Europeans there, and I started talking to them in the gym, etc. Not in the gym after lockdown, but yeah, I met people. I started talking to them. I'm really into languages. I didn't speak that many languages then, but I met some Moldovans and I started speaking to them. They were speaking Romanian. Yeah, they speak Romanian in Moldova, although with a slightly different accent, and they use some Russian words here and there. But I started talking to them, so I decided to learn the language. Obviously, I didn't learn the language by talking to them because I saw them a couple of times a week at most and for short periods of time. So that's not a plan, that's wishful thinking. So what I did was take a book, got a book in Romanian, and I read the whole thing. Took me ages, but I read the whole thing. Eventually, when I had to commute again, because they made us go back to the office, then I read it in the during the commute. But at first, I just bought the book, started memorizing vocabulary with associations. I had already learned that technique, but I could do it. I couldn't do it as well as I can do now. So I did like 30 words a day. Just memorize vocabulary and then keep reading the book. I just got the gist. I didn't understand everything, but it was a book about Ceausescu, the Romanian dictator. Interesting topic. I also got some podcasts and I listened to them over and over again. History podcasts, I still listen to them. Podcast to the Historia, super interesting. It's about the Romans, not Romanians, Romans, like ancient Romans. And I would listen to that while commuting when they made us commute again. But at first I listened to it when working out mostly or cooking meals, that sort of thing. And then more reading, more listening. And I did lots and lots of that combined with memorizing vocabulary. Again, 30 words a day with associations, words from the text, so that I'd see them again in the book. Because a book about history vocabulary tends to repeat itself a lot because it's the same topic, right? So started reading very slowly, like a page a day, then 2 pages a day, then eventually 10 pages a day. Kept reading, and in a few months, I could understand pretty much everything when it came to those topics, history, and I could chat a little bit as well. Kept doing it, and I had started in March of 2020, and in September, so 6 months later, I had an interview in Romanian with the German Romanian Chamber of Commerce, And when I was in Bucharest, so when I was done with that was in September, and the job interview was for January. So when I was done with the Spanish embassy, I started working for the German Romanian Chamber of Commerce in both German and Romanian. But the interview, I insisted because the person interviewing me was Romanian. Although the interview started in German, I insisted that we switch to Romanian because I wanted to prove a point. And yeah, I learned enough Romanian to have a successful job interview in the language. So it worked. What I would do differently now, I would memorize a lot more vocabulary with associations. And instead of reading a book, I would use my sentences. Come on, all the grammar and all the language islands, which I didn't use back then. Language islands to learn all the sentences I need for conversation. Example sentences to learn all the grammar fast, and example sentences to learn all the basic, no basic, all the vocabulary, all the common vocabulary, the first 10,000 words as fast as possible with example sentences. Memorization with associations, retrieval practice, which I wasn't doing back then, and learn that list of sentences really well. And I would listen anyway, like the same way, but I leave the book reading for much later because reading books is, I mean, it did help me learn, understand the grammar and the vocabulary of the language. My comprehension improved, but also the reading was much faster because of the memorization of vocabulary. Otherwise, it would have been much slower. But in general, I wouldn't read a book as the first thing that you do when learning a language. Anyway, that was my experience with Romania. I also forgot to mention, I had a conversation with an online tutor once a week. That I wouldn't do it these days. It was helpful to, okay, yeah, talking to someone is always helpful, but grammar lessons didn't do anything for me, honestly. And I always insisted that we just talk, just have a conversation. So it definitely helped me gain confidence, but it's not as effective as practicing your own sentences on your own. Yeah. I would still do it these days. Well, I don't do it anymore. Just I guess because of lack of time. But it's fun to talk to someone in the language. It's just much more effective to practice the sentences on your own with retrieval practice, reading aloud, listening, repeating, etc. I enjoy conversation a lot, but yeah, when it comes to effectiveness and efficiency of time used, I wouldn't do it like that. I wouldn't do like weekly one-on-one sessions. Maybe much later when you're at a higher level, then I would do it then. But that's it. That's how you learn a language in 6 months, and that's how you learn a language way faster. I just explained. Memorize a lot more vocabulary, use retrieval practice, learn sentences, learn all the grammar and all the vocabulary with example sentences and retrieval practice, and mass listening to them. And listen and repeat, shadowing, all those techniques, all right? Anyway, if you found this useful, give it a like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and see you later.